Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo teman-teman, jumpa lagi sama saya Hasnul Insani Johar. Saya akan masih menyambung episode kita yang sebelumnya, satu, dua, dan ini yang ketiga tentang conceptual framework dalam saya menganalisis novel Mohja Kahf, The Girl in the Tangerine Scarf. Kalau episode satu dan 2, kita udah bahas introduction, dan yang kedua kita bahas konsep theoretical framework yang saya pakai ada postcolonial studies, dan sekarang saya fokus kepada konsep dari Bildungsroman atau Bildungsroman studies ya, karena saya menggunakan genre Bildungsroman dalam menganalisis novel Mohja Kahf, The Girl in the Tangerine Scarf. Nah, ini teoris yang saya pakai di Bildungsroman minimal 5, yaitu Stella Bolaki dan Pinchia Feng dan Ellen McWilliam, terus Geta Leisure sama Franco Moretti. Seperti sebelumnya, mix ya teman-teman, karena kita menganalisis English text. Nah, kita lihat Stella Bolaki dulu, apa katanya tentang Bildungsroman. So, indeed, Bolaki is optimistic about the potentialities of the form for non-European or Euro-American writers. Bolaki argues that as a genre, the Bildungsroman may explore stories in new settings and that such a new perspective on the form reveal its quote, usefulness for the representation of ethnic American and post-colonial subjectivities, end quote. So Balaki's work is important because it provides model for considering how American Muslim writers depict their characters' relationship with their families and communities. So I use Bolaki's analysis as a model to investigate how Mohja Kahf represent her protagonist's formation of self, both their identities and their family roots, such as the relationship with their parents and other family members. So relevant with Bolaki, I also investigate Pin Chia Feng's discussion. So Pin Chia Feng's discussion, she finds that quote the persistent fragmentation interruption in the Bildung of the protagonist exemplify the multiple oppression and multiple contending forces experienced by women of color, end quote. So Feng analysis is also applicable to the study of American Muslim women's use of the Bildungsroman, since American Muslim women are also subjects to form of racist and gender oppression. So, and then another scholar is Ellen McWilliam. Ellen McWilliam argues that the multicultural Bildungsroman written by women such as Kingston and also Cisneros in 1989 novels, what explores complex issues of cultural identity as the young woman depicted in these fictions try to forge a sense of self that reconciles their ethnic origins with their present lives in America, end quote. So McWilliams' work is useful because it provides a way of theorizing how American Muslim women writers combine their Muslim heritage with their lived experience in the U.S. So, for example, Kahf protagonist Khadra reconnects her Syrian heritage through her parents and her own storytelling, but also by revisiting her homeland when she reached adulthood. I can argue that, however, a few of the scholars I have cited discuss the importance of religion to the contemporary ethnic American Bildungsroman. So this is where my research departs from theirs as I unpack the extent to which American Muslim women writers use references to sacred texts, for example, sacred texts, letters, and music in their Bildungsroman in order to emphasize the importance of faith, religion, and spirituality to the personal development of her protagonist. So in The Girl in Tangerine Scarf, Khadra refers to both Islamic tenets, for example, hijrah and jihad, and Islamic sacred texts such as the Quran and Hadith in order to challenge both male and white dominance. So, as we know that traditionally the Bildungsroman tells a story of personal development. So this personal development is also, we can see through the argument of Geta Leisure. Yeah, Geta Leisure investigates the Bildungsroman in 20th century African American literature and finds that in general the protagonist's personal development is shaped by dominant cultural forms of Eurocentric world system. So he argues that the West Indian Bildungsroman, quote, comes closer to the European model because a long history of colonial presence in the Caribbean, where independence didn't come to the larger West Indian islands until the 1960s, end quote. So as a result, from the emancipation era until the most recent times, education was predominantly British or European based. So, for example, in Kahf novel, the protagonist Khadra and her brothers, Ayat and Jihad, are familiar with American popular culture, such as hip hop dance and Phil Collins songs. So, in order to explore this idea further, since the 1970s and 1980s, the new writing, mostly by women, has reshaped the genre to accommodate contemporary stories of male and female development. So this new rating can explain through the following U.S. Muslim woman writers that I discussed throughout my videos, women's literature of Doma, such as Mohja Kahf, Randa Jarar, Laila Lalami, Laila Halabi, and Shaila Abdullah, for example. So this form also describes a protagonist conduct a journey in order to enhance her development by exploring the world. For example, in Kahf novel, Khadra conducts her journey both to her homeland, Syria and Saudi Arabia. And thus Khadra development both her physical and spiritual journeys, Hajj or pilgrimage in Mecca. So frequently, the Bildungsroman explore how the protagonist is guided and inspired by certain ideologies and moralities to establish their identities. Martin Jeptok argues that in the Bildungsroman, the protagonists are guided by the idea of ethnicity and idealism rather than materialism. So the protagonist ultimately return to an affirmation and ethnicity in order to experience ethnic life as richer and mainstream life as shallow. So indeed, the majority of the protagonists in the Bildungsroman are guided to a certain idealism by living fully with their heritage rather than living superficially with mainstream life. However, my presentation second section explore further how the protagonists in U.S. Muslim women Bildungsroman tend to amalgamate their ethnicity with American popular culture. Thus, the Bildung text embrace ethnicity and choose a more ethnical oriented life rather than a career in the mainstream as one alternative route of development for the protagonist of ethnic Bildungsroman. However, in Kahf's novel, Khadra maintains her Islamic heritage hijab while she is working as a photographer, despite the fact that she takes off the hijab when she has a job interview. So hence Khadra often holds both her Islamic tradition, for example, hijab, and her modern profession as a photographer. And then last, Franco Moretti. So Franco Moretti sees the key conflict of the Bildungsroman as that between the individual and society. And therein lies its continuing relevance. Quote, even though the concept of Bildungsroman has become even more approximate, he observed, it is still clear that we seek to indicate with it one of the most harmonious solutions ever offered to dilemma conterminous with modern bourgeois civilization. The conflict between the ideal of self-determination and the equally imperious demands of socialization. End quote. So similarly, in Kahf's protagonist, face conflicts between herself and her families and societies. So, for example, when Kadra returns to her homelands, Syria and Saudi Arabia, the Arabs see her as an American, while in the United States, Anglo-Americans perceive Kadra as a foreigner. So in this sense, Arab or ethnic American face similar problems of being often excluded from American belonging. So in order to challenge this exclusion, this Mohja Kahf depicts her protagonist as struggling to establish her identity, which is rooted to their Islamic and American tradition. So as above, brief discussion indicates the Bildungsroman um, boasts both potential and limitation for the treatment of a subject who is a migrant to or a minority subject within a particular society. Critics are divided as to the useful of the form for migrant and minority writers. Mark Stein claims that the Bildungsroman is not suitable for non-European fiction since it can be seen as another endorsement of Eurocentric dominance. He argues that if the term Bildungsroman is applied in non-European contexts, it will, quote, run the risk of inflicting yet another Eurocentric body of thought onto a post-colonial text, unquote. So he suggests that Bildungsroman is a quintessential European form that is in itself also an ideological construction tied to the Enlightenment. So despite this critical perspective, Stein is seemingly pessimistic that the genre of Bildungsroman is ultimately marked by a conservative bent. Although the Bildungsroman is the conventional form of Europeans, it can be used as a way for these Muslim writers to unsettle, as Bolaki suggests, the hegemony of Anglo-Americans in U.S. history and literature. Moreover, my presentation explore how Mohja Kahf interlaced musical references into the Bildungsroman form to show her protagonist crisscrossing or connecting identity in the Ummah. What I mean with by the Ummah here is a Muslim community is a fundamental concept in Islam expressing the essential unity and theoretical equality of Muslims from diverse cultural and geographical settings. I quote from Esposito 2018. So I also quote Daniel Hack. According to Daniel Hack, who also discusses the importance of religion and the U.S. ethnic woman's Bildungsroman in the girls in the Tangerine scarf, Kahf novel illuminates the limits of secularism by also highlights its potential to be inclusive as the novel ultimately envisions the secular context as a place in which to foster the Ummah, the global transnational community, thus challenging and expanding secular rights and values, end quote. So Huck's analysis allows me to investigate further how religious and spiritual aspects are essential in Kahf novel in order to foster the Ummah. This spiritual aspect can be seen in my next edition, in my next video, focusing or providing some example of how Islamic values and music, in this case hijab hip hop, have connected Muslim community around the world. So please stay tuned and we will discuss about music and dance in Mohja Kahf, the girl in Tangerine scarf in my next video. Thank you so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe my video. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.